everyone. Thanks for joining me today on the Divine Messages podcast. My name is Karina, and I am a psychic medium out of Calgary, Alberta. I am so excited for my next guest to come on here with me today. He is the star of the hit documentary series called Spirit Talker on the APTN network. He is also the author of the book called The Language of Spirit, and he also has another new book coming out called Spirit Talker that will be released in August. So, everyone, please help me welcome Indigenous medium Shawn Leonard to the podcast today. Shawn, thank you so much for coming on with me today and being here. This is really exciting for me.
Well, it's really exciting for me too. I love when spirit, sends people to my life in sometimes strange ways and unique ways. But I think we met in Calgary, did we not?
We did.
You came to one of my events, and
I
then
did.
you didn't mention anything about a podcast, I don't believe. But
Nope.
later you messaged me and said, "Hey, I have a podcast, and would you like to be a guest?" And I'm like, "Absolutely, I'd love to be a guest on your podcast."
I actually have known about you for probably about 7 years or so because you did a private reading for two of my family members, actually in Nova Scotia.
No way.
Yeah, because Nick, my husband, is from Nova Scotia. And so it was two of his family members. So I've known about you for quite a while. And I started following you not long after. And then I saw that you were coming out to Calgary to do a huge event at the Grey Eagle Casino. And I remember messaging two of my girlfriends who happened to be two of my Reiki students as well. And I said, this guy's coming. We got to go. And I said, you know what? Let's buy VIP tickets, which is something I don't normally do. I go see a lot of mediums with my girlfriends. And I was guided to. And the funny thing is, and this is kind of what I want to tell everybody of how you're on here today with me, because it's a beautiful story. That day when I came to the Grey Eagle Casino, we had gone out to dinner ahead of time. And I had gone to the bathroom at the casino and I said, I have a feeling a family member is going to come in tonight. And the girls are like, oh, your family always comes in at these shows. And I'm like, I can't help it. It's just, they're pretty loud.
Right.
And you started off this beautiful show, and what I fell in love with right away was your genuine spirit. And I sat there, and I don't know if you remember, I was sitting like right in your like line of sight, and I was staring at you the whole time. And I thought, there's not a lot of people out there that I feel that are that genuine in what they do, especially in this kind of work, because sometimes egos get in the way. And you were so incredible and spot on with everything. I was sitting there just amazed. And the whole time, the 2 hours, I think it was 2 hours, we were going, and I kept hearing that they're going to come in, they're going to come in. Well, 10 minutes before you finished this, you started saying these two names. And I kind of went like, I had that surge of energy, like I knew it was them, but I was also dumbfounded. I sat there going, I'm not saying anything. I'm not saying anything. And you kept saying, like, is someone going to say something, like, who connects to these people? And I'm like, no. And then another spirit came and took over, and it was for another family. And my girlfriends are like hitting me going, Karina, why didn't you say anything? And I'm like, I don't actually know. And we went to stand up and come meet you and take a picture with you. And as soon as I stood up, it was so incredible. This beautiful white feather came from the ceiling. I actually don't know where it came from. And my girlfriend and I were watching it in slow motion as it came down, and it landed on my face. And I went, okay, that's just a weird sign. And I would love for you to share that story about the white feather, because you started off this session explaining the white feather to everybody. And then it happened to me.
Right. Well, the funny thing is I have that feather in my wallet that landed on your face.
What?
I
You
do. I
do?
kept
You can. Did
after
you
everybody
really?
left. I remember that you said there was a feather that floated down, and I looked down and there was a little white feather there. So I picked it
Oh
up and I
my
put it in my
God.
wallet. And I was like, oh my God, there is a feather, because you told me about it.
I
And
did.
I never had a chance to really like look around, but it was still there. So I picked it up. And the reason why I picked it up has a little bit to
Wow.
do with that story.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
in my events, I always do like about a half hour talk, talking about a little bit about my journey. I have to really sum it up as much as I can, but I
Mm,
share a few stories, and one of those stories is about a feather, and it's a special, very very special story. It's on the front cover of my new book,
I love
Spirit
it.
Talk, that is coming out on August 8th through Hayos Publishing,
Mhm.
and I wanted the feather to be on the front because it was so impactful on my journey. Because I mean, not, I'm a psychic medium, I'm a spirit talker, whatever words that you want to choose to describe this understanding of the language that communicates through from spirit. But I have a lot of things happen, but not everything is like super profound. You know what I mean? It's not like,
Yeah.
blow your socks off type of stuff. It's like, oh my God, this is incredible. And just pre-COVID, we went, me and my wife, Michelle, went to this island called the Big Island of Hawaii. So
Hmm.
it's the biggest island. If you put all the other islands together, they'd still be smaller than the Big Island.
Hmm.
So we went to the Big Island, and it's, even though it's the newest island, so it's very rough with like lava rock and all that, and it's just, there's not as many beautiful beaches as some of the other islands, but it was still, I wanted to see this island because of the connection to the goddess Pele, because
Hmm.
she has a big connection to the lava and bringing life to the world in Hawaiian culture, and so I go to Hawaii, and we usually get a Airbnb, and on the third floor of our Airbnb, which is where we're staying, just beautiful, and just, you get up every morning, you hear the morning doves, you smell the ocean air, you can hear the ocean. It's serene, and so when we're there, there's something I want to do when in Hawaii is I always want to go up to at least the highest point that I can go to, because
Hmm.
in many indigenous cultures, being higher, especially indigenous culture, being higher or closer to the sun, as we
Yeah.
see the sun as that first sacred light, that first physical sacred light. Our ceremonies begin in the east with the Mi'kmaq people, and so we always like honor the sun. Gazulk or Niskam, we say is for the sun. And so I wanted to go and honor the sun, not necessarily in the rising of the sun, but the setting of the sun. I wanted to do something particular. I brought a tobacco offering, and in indigenous culture, tobacco, making an offering for your prayers, is
Hmm.
something that we give, that we hold over our heart, and then we place it as like we're leaving our prayer there, as like we're giving medicine for the prayer to be answered. And so I said my prayer, but my prayer was that I it wasn't like a profound prayer. It was just, my loved ones, my ancestors, the people that I care about. I'm asking and requesting you to spend some time with me, especially in my time in Hawaii,
Hmm.
because I talked to my dad, I talked to Larry, I talked to my aunts, my grandma Margaret, my grandfather, and my great grandparents. I'm like, it'd be really nice to have you all just spend some time with me, especially with my downtime, because I'm so busy in life that I don't always have that much time. And I know you could probably relate, being busy and such.
Yep.
But I'm inviting you all here to be with me. And I'd appreciate if you could spend some time with me during this next 2 to 3 weeks that we're in Hawaii. And so I'm inviting you here to be with me. And that was it. We drove down the volcano. The sun had set. It was beautiful. We went to our Airbnb on the third floor, and we do what we normally do every morning. We get up and we have a 3 hour coffee, and
I
it's
love
just
that.
sitting there. I know, you just sit there, you just chill, like
Yeah, relax.
yeah, you relax and you enjoy the scenery, listening to the morning doves and the ocean. And I mean, Hawaii is a very windy place too. The wind is kind of like blowing through the palm trees and such, and you can see the wind
Hmm.
blowing. And it was blowing, not like super powerful that morning, but it was still blowing nonetheless. And as we sat there drinking our coffee, beautiful sunny morning, we both noticed something, me and Michelle. And it was a little tiny white feather, but it was probably about maybe 50 feet up in the air above where we were, and about 50 feet away from us.
Hmm.
And it was kind of strange because the size of the feather was just that big. And as it floated down from the sky, it was like, you're really going super slow. And I was like, this is so strange. Michelle's looking at it. She's like, shouldn't the wind be like blowing this away? And then like, we're puzzled as to why this feather is floating so slow.
Hmm.
And it's going like in slow motion, and like there's none of the natural effects of anything are affecting this feather, and it's even moving slower than gravity should allow it to flow, and
Hmm.
it just floats straight down, and we're just watching it, and then it floated past our deck, and Michelle goes, well, that had to be a sign. And I'm like, I'm sure it's a sign, like there's no
Yeah.
way that should have happened like that. And I was just going to take a sip of my coffee, And I heard a voice in my mind that said, Shawn, hold out your hand. I'm like, oh, what? And I kind of like second guessed it for a moment, but I said,
Mm-hmm.
so I decided
Sure.
just to hold up my hand. And Michelle looked at me, she goes, what are you doing? I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really sure. I was just told that I should hold up my hand. So I'm holding it up.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I did that, even though that the feather had went down to about a floor below us, it was still kind of hovering there. It flew back up and just drifted completely up in the air. And as it drifted completely up in the air above our deck, and then it went right towards me. And I didn't have to move my hand. I didn't have to do anything, but right in the center of the palm of my hand, it landed.
It's
And
amazing.
I'm looking at Michelle and she's crying. And
Oh.
I start crying and and she goes like, how did that happen? I'm like, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, who do you think did that? I said, well, probably all the people I spoke to, all the people that I invited, probably all literally had a hand in that feather coming to me in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that as a validation for my ancestors, the people that I love and care about that I have lost in my life, this physical life, this one, that they were kind of letting me know they were spending time with me in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
And all it really took was just having a conversation with them and speaking to them openly from my heart and inviting them. And I think why these things happen for me. It's great that they do happen for me. I don't
Mm-hmm.
need them to happen because it's not like it's going to shift my belief because I'm already
Right.
firmly sound in my belief system about spirit and how spirit communicates and connects.
Mm-hmm.
And but I love that it does happen. But I think they know I would tell the story.
Yeah.
They know I would share this. They know that I would give this to people. And it was for me, but it's also not just for me, it's for other people. And I feel everything that happens in my life spiritually that helps me understand spirit a little bit greater and better,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a concept or an idea or even a way we can communicate, that I know spirit wants me to share it. So
Mm-hmm.
that's what I do. And with my book, Spirit Talker coming out, I wanted that story included because it was a new book and I just really wanted to put it out there and help people understand that concept about how important it is to remember to include our people that we love, to
Mm-hmm.
to invite them to be part of our lives. And that's what I did. And now you were showing up at my event, which kind of sinks into the story a little bit because you said to me that that feather floated down. But you know
Mm-hmm.
what? In Hawaii, I kept that feather,
Mm-hmm.
but it disappeared somehow.
Oh
And
my
I don't
gosh.
know where it went. I don't know where it went. I put it in my wallet in my little change purse and I made sure, but somehow it wasn't in my it had vanished, the feather, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where it went. And I regret it not keeping it somehow
Mm-hmm.
safer because I thought maybe it was just my silliness of like paying for something and lost it. And then I had to let it go because maybe it wasn't really meant for me to keep.
Right.
But when I told that story, I mean, I told that story along my cross Canada tour. But when you were there, the feather had come and landed on your face, and you said it was on the floor. And
Yeah.
after everybody left, I picked it up, and I thought, I'm going to keep this. Maybe this is the feather that I lost. Maybe
Coming
this is
back
the feather that was meant to come back to me.
for
And
this.
yeah, and so I
Mm-hmm.
still, as far as I know, that feather's still in my wallet.
That's unbelievable because it was what you were describing in the beginning about your story. We looked up and it was in slow motion. And I thought, I've never seen this before. And it was coming down like this. And I'm watching it. And all of a sudden I could feel it on my face because it tickled me. And my girlfriend just like flicked it off my face. And I didn't see where it went. And it was busy. And and I was upset too that I didn't actually speak up and say, hey, these are my loved ones. And that night, I let it go. I thought, whatever, if it was supposed to happen, they would have been loud and clear and I would have spoken up. Right.
Mhm,
And so I posted a picture of us with the group that, like, with my girlfriends on Instagram.
mhm,
And I actually tagged you in it. And I said, what an incredible night. And when I had woken up the next morning and I had seen that you had commented on the picture, and I went, oh, well, that's kind of neat. Okay, that's neat. And then I went to take a shower because I was going to get ready for my day. And in the shower is when I heard someone loud and clear And I usually get my best messages in the shower because I'm kind of like, in a meditative state. And I heard someone say, Karina, go message him and ask him to be on the podcast. And I thought, no, like there's no way. No, I'm not going to do that. That's no, no, not asking. And
Yeah.
as soon as I came out of the shower, I grabbed my phone and I went and I just typed a message to you right away before I got into my head and, overthought it, I guess. And you wrote back and said, yeah, I'd love to do that. I was like, what? Okay. So the feather to me was significant because that stuff doesn't just happen. And I knew that you were like, when I was saying to you that I think it's a full circle of how I met you, and I know that it is. I know that that feather was so significant. And here you are with me today without even thinking about it. It just kind of happened. And you said yes. And I'm like, okay, then I know that this is something that spirit wants us to do for some reason. And I trust it.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me too. So I think the fact that the feather had come to you even at the event and it'd fallen on the floor, and then after everyone left, it was just sitting there at my feet. I remembered,
That's
and so I
unbelievable that you
kept it.
have it. I can't believe you have it.
Yes, I did. I kept it. I'm hoping I still have it.
Now you have to let me know later if you do,
I'm
if
gonna
it's
look at
still
my
there.
wallet and make sure it didn't vanish again on me because
Yeah,
as I go into my wallet, I get complacent. But I think I tucked it in a little pocket. I'm pretty sure I did.
you have to
I
tell
wanted to
me.
get. I'm gonna rub that thing on my lottery tickets. That's what I'm gonna do.
Okay, then send me it in the mail and I'll do it to mine too. And maybe it'll
Exactly. Yes.
something
Yes.
amazing will happen out of it. But
Yeah.
you
I
know,
don't think that's what it's meant for, but
no, it's definitely not. But what
no.
a nice story to get us here today, right? And when we actually like came over to you, and I remember saying it to you, like there were so many people waiting to talk to you and take their picture with you. And I blurted it out. I'm like, the feather landed on my face. And I'm thinking he's gonna think I'm crazy. But
No.
and then we went to take our picture, and I remember putting my arm around you. And I also work with energy. I'm a Reiki master. And so I like connected to your energy, and I never felt, I don't know if I can even describe this. It was a sense of safety. And I don't usually have that with a lot of men. And you
Mhm.
reminded me so much of my Reiki master. He's now passed, but the same genuine, kind, safe energy. And that's why I reached out.
Well, that's awesome. I appreciate you saying that. I mean, I always try to be kind and nice. I mean, it's not like I really have to work at it. It's just who I
It's
naturally
natural.
am. So it's just I
That
don't
is.
have to change who I am. I just be who I am. I'm sure my wife would say, sometimes I'm a challenge.
I'm sure my husband would say
But
the
that's
same.
normal.
It is.
But everyone that I greet in life, I treat them as I would like to be treated myself, with kindness and respect. And we're
Mhm.
all brothers and sisters in this world. We're all
Yeah.
come from the same spirit family of the other side. We're all connected, much more greater than we even know. I mean, we're all part of each other's soul group, whether we know it or not.
Yep.
And the people that come in and out of our life are meant to come in. Even the hard lessons, even the struggles, even the people that you have struggled with in life. And sometimes we have to think about it. I mean, I wish I didn't go through some of the things I have, but they've been gifts,
Same. Yeah, I
gifts
agree.
of wisdom and knowledge to, because if for me, I mean, I know for you too, that when
Hmm.
you're in life and serving people, if you don't have wisdom, that I mean, if you haven't been through stuff, you're not going to have the wisdom to guide people through stuff.
Yes.
And sometimes I think that often hard things happen more to us because we have to have that wisdom to serve others. I'm
Yes.
hoping I've gained enough though.
I say the same. I say to my guides, I think I'm done now. I'm almost 50. Like, please don't give me any more lessons because I always say to everybody, I've lived 1,000 lives in this physical realm, in this body. And the things that I've gone through, I am in the midst of writing a book about it because you can't make this stuff up. It's just one thing after another. And you know, I had a pity party for years. I would say, why me? Why me
Oh,
again?
yeah.
And
Yes.
I've been through some pretty difficult, traumatic events. And I look at it now, I'm grateful for them. Yes, definitely grateful for them now, but I wasn't, for all the years I went into um, a lot of struggles. I struggled with, addiction, and I was just trying to numb this other side and all the things that had happened to me. It was a really hard, 20, 30 years. And
Oh,
here I
yeah. I mean,
am
everybody
happy
has a
now.
journey, and
Yeah.
some people may appear that they've they're just coasting through life, but everybody has different struggles,
We do.
and some people harder than others, unfortunately. And
Hmm.
it's sad to see people struggle as much as they do. But for us, I mean, what we can do is just be the stillness within the chaos sometimes for them, and whether it's bridging a connection to the spirit world, or offering
Yeah.
guidance to a person that might be like stuck in a certain area of
Yes.
life. Often I feel like a counselor or therapist sometimes,
Yes,
but
we
that's
are.
part of that wisdom that you've gained from your experience of struggles.
I see them as blessings now. I really do. And that's kind of where I said to my husband, probably a good 15, 16 years ago, I said, I am going to try to help as many people in this world as I possibly can. I said, I have to take this pain and do something with it, or I'm going to sink.
Yeah.
And that's what I chose to do. I gave myself in service. And sometimes just holding the space for someone who and you can feel is struggling is enough, and then channeling those words too that are coming through our spirit guides. And I didn't actually want to be a medium. This is not something that I wanted to do. Like, I've been able to see spirit since I was 9, but I never really wanted this. Did you want this? Did you fight it like I did? I fought it for many years, actually.
I didn't really fight it. I didn't really set out in life to be the person I am today. It's not,
Hmm.
it just kind of unfolded this way.
Hmm.
It just how it kind of my life had unfolded. I remember in the beginning, I was a bit, skeptical. I was a bit skeptical about how and what I was receiving. Was this my own mind, or is this thoughts of others? Is this some type of mind reading thing that is going on with me?
Hmm.
But there was one pivotal moment that I remembered. Actually, it's a story related to Calgary, actually.
I know what you're
And
going to say. I
yeah,
watched the interview with you and the lovely Colette Baron Reed, and you were
oh yes,
talking about Charlie. And I was like,
Charlie.
yes, I was watching the whole episode. And so I
Yeah,
already know. Weird that you and I have a connection to Calgary and Nova Scotia and everything, but go ahead. You could tell the
yeah.
listeners what this
Well,
story is. It's kind
Mannequin
of
and
wild.
Charlie is his name, but I worked in Calgary. I used to work, like I lived in Calgary for 17 years, and
Mm-hmm.
love it. My kids still live there, and so anyway, I worked at a company. It was called Smed International for a while, where I made office furniture, and then became Hayworth,
Mm-hmm.
which was bought out by Hayworth, and I think that's even closed there now, if I'm not mistaken. And it's another building, but it was down in the Foothills Industrial Park, right across from the soccer dome,
Oh my
and
gosh.
so that's where it was, in that building there. And I worked there
Wild.
for years and years and years. But I worked beside a guy named Orhan, who was
Mm-hmm.
a Bosnian fella, and a really nice guy, great guy. We played sports, really athletic, good soccer player. We played
Mm-hmm.
basketball, pretty competitive sometimes. Uh, but I remember he was a bit skeptical.
Mm-hmm.
He was raised as a Muslim fellow,
Yeah.
and he wasn't quite sure. He wasn't even quite sure about his own faith, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started to kind of open up, and I wasn't sure really what was happening still, because I was like under the suspicion that maybe this was like some type of like thing that was coming from people and not from spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And as I sat with Orhan, just typing away on my computer, I repeatedly started to hear a name in my mind. And it's not like I heard it with my ears. It was like I heard a name within my mind. It was like a name just kept coming into my head, repeat. And it was just like Charlie, Charlie, Charlie. And I was like, why am I hearing Charlie?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of real. This was is like really the mind, that moment that shifted my life. That I was embracing spirit connection, but I still wasn't like sold 100%. I didn't know this was
Mm-hmm.
going to be my path.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started hearing Charlie, Charlie, Charlie. And I thought, well, Orhan has to be thinking about doing something with Charlie. And that's how this is all kind of went down, right? And so I looked at Orion. I said, "Well, and I didn't want to mention dead people, because Orion's already weirded out by me a little bit. So all I need to do is just start mentioning dead people, and he's going
Yeah.
to glaze over and just say, not even listen, right?" So I just said, "Well,
Yeah.
probably Charlie's a buddy of his that he's doing something with on the weekend." So I said, "Orion, I got a weird question for you, but do you know a guy named Charlie?"
Mm-hmm.
And he stopped and he turned and he looked at me and he goes, what did you say? Like, do you guys know a guy named Charlie? Like, for whatever, he says, why do you ask us your questions? Like, because I got Charlie ringing in my head. It's like driving me nuts here. Every time I tap on my computer, I hear this name Charlie. And he goes, well, I used to know a guy named Charlie. And as
Mm.
soon as he said that, it was not like I did anything special. I was kind of just like trying to understand why I'm hearing the name. And when he said he knew it, it was like all of a sudden a
Light bulb.
picture flashed in my head
Hmm.
that was of a bar sign in Calgary called the Town and Country Bar. It was just a big TNC.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, that's so weird. Why would I see the Town and Country Bar sign? I'm not seeing with my eyes, but I'm seeing within my mind.
Hmm.
And if you can imagine, if all of your people out there could imagine seeing a bar sign that it's high up in the air and has a big TNC, you could probably see it in your own mind, right?
Uh-huh.
But imagine that you didn't know why, which I didn't, why you were seeing it.
Hmm.
And that's what it's like being a medium most times, or spirit talk, because you're the middle person, but you don't always know. But you have to trust what is unfolding or what's coming through. So that's what I did. I'm just like, why am I seeing this? And he's like, I'm pretty sure that's the last place Charlie was seen alive. I'm like,
Hmm.
what? And I mean, obviously, you don't have to be too psychic to figure out that if you're last seen somewhere alive, something happened to
Not
you.
great. Yeah.
So as soon as I'm done that, I start seeing these stairs to the back side of a house
Hmm.
and going down the stairs into this basement apartment. And it was almost like there was a little roof and a set of stairs, and I saw a light above. And he went into the door, but I felt there was about three people following him. And
Hmm.
I was like, no, I see these three people and they're following him. I said, into this downstairs basement apartment. And I said, do you know anything about him living in a downstairs basement apartment? And he said, no, I don't. I'm like, are you sure? Because like I'm confident because
Hmm.
he was thinking about Charlie, the guy I used to work with. He was thinking about the town and country, and he was thinking about how he died and all this. And that's how I was retrieving this information. So that's where I was at my life. I was like, this had to be coming from him.
Hmm.
And because I'm trying to rationalize how this is coming to me. And he didn't know, and he got kind of upset, and he said, "What are you trying to say? I murdered Charlie, or no, I didn't murder Charlie." I'm like, I wasn't even in the country when Charlie died. I'm like, I'm not doing that. I just need to know. Did you know this part? He's like, no. He says, you
Hmm.
need to drop this. This is not. And he said, who told you
Yeah.
this? And he was getting angry and like, who put you up to this? He think this was like some type of cruel joke to prove a point,
Oh,
which it is. And I said, how did you even know this guy, Orion? He goes, well, I used to work with him at the airport 8 years ago. I'm like, Warren, how was I even supposed to know a buddy of yours that died at the Town and Country Bar or was last seen or whatever? I didn't even know you worked at the airport 8 years ago. How am I supposed to put all that together? And he says, I don't know. And he says, let's just not talk about it. And I said, fine. So we dropped it.
wow.
And a lot of time went by, probably like a few months, and I did something that I don't always do. Like this is where these little synchronicities happen, right?
Hmm.
I picked up the Calgary Sun newspaper, mostly just to look at the Calgary Flame score. And I had a little bit of time before work, and I'm flipping through the paper. Orion's not in yet.
Hmm.
And as I flip through the paper, there's a story about an unsolved murder about a guy named Mannequin Achari, nicknamed Charlie, worked at the airport, last seen at the Town and Country Bar in Calgary, and where he was found murdered. They talked about the place that he was found murdered at was in this, you know, in, in the southeast of Calgary with this house, and he lived in a downstairs basement apartment. They described everything that I saw, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is insane!"
Yeah.
So I'm like just blown away. And anyway, Orion comes in. I put the paper down. I'm circling the downstairs part and said, read this story. And he goes, what? Yes, I know this guy. And he's like, what do you want me to say? I didn't murder him. I'm like, I'm not saying you murdered him. I said, remember that part that I talked to you about him living in the downstairs basement apartment and the backside entrance and stuff like this? And he's like, yeah, I kind of do. And but he said no first, and I said baloney, right? And I said something else, but uh,
Yeah.
he said, yeah, I kind of do. And I said, no, I remember saying this very clearly to you.
Hmm.
Did you know this? And he said, no, I really didn't know this. And I said, Orion, you have to be honest with me. Did you really know this? Because I have to find out. Is this coming from his head? Because is equally as clear as I saw these other things come to me.
Hmm.
The part about being in the back side of the house on the downstairs going into the home was equally as visual to me and clear.
Hmm.
And if he didn't know it, then it was coming from somewhere. And he said, Shawn, I swear, I'll swear in my own life and all that. And he did. And he says, well, do you believe me? And I said, yes, absolutely believe you. He goes, well, good, leave me the hell alone. And it was like, why is it so important to you? And I said, Orion, if you didn't know this part of this puzzle that you didn't know is
Hmm.
coming to me from somewhere. And Orion, it feels like your friend Charlie. It feels like this man is telling me a story about what happened to him, what went down, and all this. And you know, I'm not accusing you of anything, but if you didn't know this, I'm going to say, this is going to. I'm confident that your friend is really was telling me the story,
Hmm.
and that was a pinnacle moment because at that point on my journey, I mean, we're all maybe doubtful or maybe sometimes unsure or uncertain about what we're receiving, and until something happens that you get something that you couldn't possibly know, that is as clear as a bell, that
Hmm.
came to you, and it's just how it came, through that inner vision, clairvoyance, and I'll teach you a little something about that too, because it was very prominent in indigenous culture. The Mi'kmaq people back in the day had a ceremony
Hmm.
where they would practice. They would have a ceremony around seeing things from spirit.
Wow.
We have a
Okay.
game called Waltus, and the Waltus ball it's a game, and there's like 6 dice in it that are made of bones. They're flat on one side and round the other, and they have a symbol on the flat side. And you usually play with an elder. And this solid maple ball you take and you bounce on the table on a blanket, and all the pieces are flying up in the bowl, and you're even waving your arms over it, hoping that the spirits are going to put them all just right. And it's a fun game.
That was
And
cool.
it's one that I can't seem to win for the life of me. Those elders, that man, they're good. They're like bang, bang, bang. I'm like, oh my God. Before you, and there's a bunch of
Awesome.
sticks you get. And there's a whole story about the sticks. There's this man and he has 3 wives and he has children and all this. There's like a whole bunch of sticks. By the end of it, somebody has all the sticks.
Hmm.
And it's a fun game. But that bowl served another purpose. Way prior to contact of European people coming over to they called the New World, which was the obviously very same world for all of us that were already here.
Hmm.
We had a ceremony where we'd use that bowl, and I know there would be more than one person within the community that would have done this because they would have filled the bowl with water. And water in indigenous culture, I don't know about all indigenous cultures, but definitely Mi'kmaq culture, is a woman's medicine.
Mm.
So, because you're the water carriers, you're affected by the moon, and that medicine is strongly connected to women. And it's something that when there's anything ceremonial done with water, the women have to handle it.
Okay.
So it would have been like a team effort of some sort where there'd be a few seers and it would be involved potentially a man and woman or just a woman,
Hmm.
where she would have filled the bowl full of water, and then during that time of the moon, the full moon and the wasting of the moon for 4 nights, because in indigenous cultures there's a powerful number in four. The
Okay.
4 directions and
Hmm.
you know anyway, they would have for the 4 nights of the moon, and all of our ceremonies are done. Like we have a sacred fire after somebody um, makes her journey home to the spirit world. We have a sacred fire for 4 days. That fire will burn for 4 days.
Hmm.
So they fill that bowl full of water. I'm sure there would be a ceremony like a pipe ceremony, which is like a tool used for prayer. They would have smudged, cleansed their aura, used the smoke to kind of set intentions and clear their auras, and
Hmm.
then laid that bowl of water out in the moonlight for 4 nights, maybe leading up to the full moon or 2 nights before and 2 nights after. I'm not 100% sure. Nobody really knows.
Hmm.
But after that time, they'd have taken that bowl and sat with it, whoever the seer was or the person that could see for their community. And it very likely was probably a woman in most cases, but they would have sat with the bowl, did another ceremony, and then stared into the water. And I know why this happens, because prayers are all about speaking to spirit. It's like speaking from our heart. It's like putting out energy to the spirit world. But meditation or mindfulness, creating space with you in your mind, and when I receive images or messages from spirit, I'm sure you do too, you
Mm-hmm.
have to listen.
Very.
And how you listen, you're listening audibly, you're listening clairsentiently for a sense of like some feeling in some way,
Mm-hmm.
you're listening for a visual thing that may come into your mind. There's information that comes through, but if you're not listening, you can't receive anything. So this ceremony would have been done particularly to listen for the ancestors or the spirit world to show them something. And it
Mm-hmm.
could be about where they should go for their summer camp or winter camp, or what medicine should be picked for somebody who is not well, or if somebody was grieving, if there was a message from their loved one that could have come through. I'm sure the person who is the the person that would have done that ceremony would have been able to do lots of things in relation to those messages that came from spirit, visually, feeling, or hearing, or sensing, or all
Mm-hmm.
the above. And then they would have given that information to whoever needed it. But it was quite the ceremony to do it. Now, this ceremony went on until contact with so as soon as the priests and the Catholics and the Jesuit priests start coming over, I mean, all of our ceremonies became evil, primitive, and
Mm-hmm.
against what they were trying to teach into the world. I mean, we were very well balanced, good spiritual people with our own ceremonies that were celebrated very strongly, and then those things were stripped of us.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually, when they saw that ceremony in connection to spirit, it was one they didn't particularly were that fond of, because they didn't like that if you had a direct connection to the creator, a direct connection to the spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So they drilled holes in our bowls. They didn't mind if we had played the game of Waltus and had fun. But if you were able to use that to
Wow.
hold water and do ceremony to see things from spirit, it became a big no-no.
Hmm.
So even today, there's elders in Nova Scotia that I've met that their bowl has been passed down from generation to generation,
No
and they still
way.
have holes in them from back in the contact time
Oh,
because they weren't allowed to do that ceremony to receive images or information from spirit. But
wow.
this is something that was naturally part of who we are, and it's been taken from us for so long. It's part of our culture. It's part of the indigenous culture. I'm sure it's part of all of our culture. Unfortunately, not no offense to anyone out in the world that has a religious belief or faith or anything like that. I mean, if it works for you, that's great.
Mm-hmm.
In relation to connection to spirit, many people have been made to feel like not this is like against the creator, this is against spirit, this is like
Yes.
evil works, and it's kind of
Yeah.
silliness really, because those are belief systems. It's not the truth. I mean, when you're talking to spirit, you're talking to people.
Mm-hmm.
These people are ancestors. Your grandmother, your grandfather, your father, your mom, are they evil people? There might be one crappy person in your family line somewhere, but that
Yeah.
doesn't make all of your people that you
Bad.
love bad.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And just as much as you want to talk to them, they want to talk to you. But what people don't realize or understand is that we don't listen.
Mm-hmm.
We don't create space in our life. A lot of people don't even speak to them. Like I said with the feather story, it's in a big part of spirit communication and connection, and receiving information is, well, one, communicating and speaking to them, like, because you love them, they love you. You should have conversations with the people you love. And then when it comes time to receive information, to create space so that you can listen, be
Mm-hmm.
mindful, and then you may, like, just as you saw the whole story, and this is what I like to tell
Mm-hmm.
people, is like when I take people down that journey of like even imagining in your own mind the story of the person holding the bowl in the moonlight. I know you and
Mm-hmm.
most people that are listening to this podcast are that they are visualizing the story.
Yes.
You're able to see it in your mind. You're able to see
Mm-hmm.
without your eyes.
Mm-hmm.
There is something inside of us that can see without our eyes, that are able to imagine and visualize, like
Mm-hmm.
from spirit. But it's not just a special gift for you or I, it's for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
We're born this way. It's innate within us. You think the creator would make us with something and expect us to abstain from like using it? Like
Right.
it'd be like saying you have eyes, but you're not allowed to see. You have ears, but you can't hear. But you also have inner eyes and inner hearing, inner senses. And this is part of that spirit that which we all are. And you have to honor that core of who you are, not just honor the people like, because we think, well, we can only honor that if they're in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
What about all the other ancestors like of mine that weren't Christians or Buddhist or Muslims or whatever? I mean, were they doomed to an eternal hell because they didn't even hear of the man Jesus before? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I
No creator that is
agree.
an all-loving creator
Everything's
would
one.
would judge all of India or all of Pakistan or all of the indigenous people and
Yeah.
only the Caucasian people who are Christians or the Spanish people whatever have the truth and no one else does.
Hmm.
That's sad. We all come from the same source.
We really
No
do.
matter what faith, culture, race, religion, belief, we come from the same source. There's one unifying thing that we're all spirit having a human experience. It's temporary because as
Hmm.
far as I know, nobody's not made it past beyond a certain age yet.
That's
And
right.
they head on back to which they came from.
Yes.
We've come into this life and it's not our only lifetime. We've lived many lifetimes and probably
Hmm.
this world and many worlds. And but we're here now. And it's important that we honor the purpose for which we're given in this moment. But we also are spirit and have the ability to see, feel, hear, and connect to spirit.
Hmm.
And I'm hoping through our teachings or what you put out into the world and you're facilitating this that people can see themselves as not just part of a belief system, but part of humanity, part of spirit as a whole. I
Hmm.
mean, the ocean's no different. I mean,
Yep.
if the ocean is like filled with like what a quadrillion trillion billion drops of just individual pieces of water, but it's still part of the whole. And we don't judge the ocean for being as one, but we see ourselves the same way
Hmm.
and see that we are all equally connected and should be connected,
Hmm.
should remember who we are and not be ashamed or scared or fearful. That we approach
Yep.
all spirit just like we do people with
Yes.
kindness, respect, honor, and if you approach spirit from that way, like if I go to the grocery store and I talk to a guy who's look, we'll call him a bit of an arsehole.
Hmm.
I'm kind to him. Is he going to want to sit around and talk to me? No, he's going to skadoosh off.
Exactly.
He's going to
Yep.
go, man, this
No,
guy annoys
thanks.
me. I don't want to talk to
Yeah,
him.
no, thanks.
But if you're kind, like you said, the people that come into your life,
Hmm.
you're in alignment with.
Hmm.
When you act and be a certain way in life, that's when you're in alignment with that energy, then those are the people that you attract. Those are the energy of the people that come within your life,
Hmm.
wherever you are, right?
Hmm.
And it's the same with spirit. So the people that you're in relation to spirit and that are, that are in a higher level of energy, if you come from that space, that's all that you're available for. That's what's going to want to be around you. So
Hmm.
you should like surrender and let go of fear.
Well, then I have a question for you
Sure.
because for me, I hid from this for many years, really until the podcast started 3 years ago. I would really keep what I did on the down low. Like I didn't want to, I don't know, I didn't want everybody to judge me because they were pretty, some people can be very judgmental, especially in this line of work. And in the beginning, when I first came out doing this, publicly, there was a lot of talk about, oh, you're doing witchcraft or you're doing black magic and those kind of things. And I thought, wow, like, is that really like, is helping people that bad in some people's eyes? And so I really remained hidden for a long time until, of course, 3 years ago. And did you have that too? Did you feel that, you didn't want people to know, or did you just come right
No.
out and say, hey, by the way, I happen to be able to channel?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like it's funny because I was just at a funeral like a few days ago for a friend of mine who is in my course, Spirit Talker Tribe.
Okay.
And anyway, she passed away from cancer. She was terminal, and so I went to a funeral, which was a Catholic funeral because her family wanted to have one.
Mm-hmm.
And but I was faced with people who aren't necessarily of the same belief system,
Mm-hmm.
but I accept them the way they are. I don't. I could feel the energy
Mm-hmm.
of maybe how they felt. I could give that power, or I could choose not to care or give it power at all. So that's what I opted for, right? Because what other people believe is their choice,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not going to change me. It's not going to change how I feel. It's not going to change my truth. I'm sorry that they feel like they need to look down upon people because I don't align with their belief system.
Mm-hmm.
But that's their choice.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was one lady that came up to me, and I was talking to a fellow. I was actually her partner in life. His name was Michael, and I was talking to him, and this lady was standing there, and I kept talking to him. I was like, so, and then I said, and I asked him a couple questions because I was connecting to Anna Maria, who is the lady that passed away. And I said, why would you be showing me out in Wolfville, right in Nova Scotia? I said, like, have you been thinking about moving out there? He's like, no. I said, that's so weird because it's like I feel compelled that I want to go to Wolfville and just stay there.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't know. But the lady he was talking to, who just lost her husband 6 months ago, skeptic,
Mm-hmm.
really shut down. And she goes, oh, you're not one of those crazy psychic people, are you?
Oh,
I'm like,
wow.
well, I can be a little crazy
Yeah.
sometimes, but I'm definitely a little bit psychic.
Yeah.
I just don't buy into the belief or the energy. And I said, well, she goes, yeah, people are telling me I should maybe go visit one of you people at some point. She was kind of rude a little bit.
Wow.
But I don't take it personally.
Yeah.
This is just a reflection of what's going on inside of her and her belief system.
Mm-hmm.
And if I approach her with like anger, fear, or whatever, because that's something that's inside me that is not aligned, right?
Right.
So I have to be good within myself.
Mm-hmm.
I know who I am. I know what's true. I don't have to prove it to anyone either. Um, but I just talked to her for a few minutes and I said, so your husband passed like, I didn't know he passed 6 months ago. I said, it feels like he's been gone pretty short time, actually. Has it been like less than like 6 months or about 6 months? She goes, oh, it was 6 months. Like, how did you
Mm-hmm.
know? Did somebody tell you? I'm like, no.
Just no.
She goes,
Yes.
"Oh yeah, you're one of the crazy psychic guys, right?"
That's
And I'm
right.
like, "Yeah." And then I talked to her about a few things that really connected. Talked about the feather story, which she just got a feather, and talked
Mm-hmm.
about dimes, and she just got a bunch of dimes. She's got a collection. She thinks she's going
Right.
crazy, and I'm like, "Well," and she said, I just gave her the advice. I said, a psychic might not be the answer for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not soliciting you to come see me because that's irrelevant. I don't care if you come see me. I actually don't even do personal sessions anymore.
Uh-huh.
But, if you feel like it in your heart that maybe this will help you, then what is it going to hurt? Maybe
True.
just go give it a try and just see what happens. You might be surprised.
Mm-hmm.
And she was crying a little bit. And I made a few connections and I said, that's so strange. I can't start seeing Wolfville again. And she goes, well, me and my husband were going to move to Wolfville
Of
before he
course.
died. And I said, that's funny because when I was talking to this guy, I was just asking him, I'm like, I want to go to Wolfville, move to Wolfville. And you were standing right beside me.
Mm-hmm.
She goes, I heard you saying that. It
Mm-hmm.
kind of got my attention a bit. And and then I've said a few other things that were validating that I don't really remember. But I know it wasn't there to prove or anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just being kind.
Mm-hmm.
I was just being present and just being mindful and trying to honor her healing process,
In
her
pain.
grief. And
Yeah.
despite her being rude because of her maybe being angry that her husband died, which she is,
Yes.
and that's where a lot of this anger stems from. It's not something about me or people in general. It's just what's going on with her because of the loss of her husband.
Grief.
So don't
Yeah.
take it personally.
Mm-hmm.
And um, you know, occasionally I find one person in the world may be challenging, but I've gotten really good. Over the years, especially Facebook is great because there's a few, every now and then you'll have somebody on there spouting off something. They've never seen anything I've done. They've never looked at anything I've ever done anywhere. And
Yeah.
they'll just say that I'm like a crazy fraud, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, oh, well, delete, ban, block.
Yes. It happens to me too. I get
Peace
it.
to you.
Yeah.
Delete ban block. I mean, good.
Sad.
I'm not trying to convince them. I'm not even going to give it energy because it's not worth because if you're not going to
Mm-hmm.
approach me in a good way, I'm just not going to like give it energy.
I think I get a lot of emails from people that are saying to me, I've been sent to save you. What you're doing is wrong. And I'm like, but I don't judge what you do. So I ask that you just, don't judge me.
Yeah.
And
No,
that's
I
kind
haven't
of
had
how it
anybody
goes.
save me yet, so or try to save me.
Well, I've had lots. I can,
Yeah.
tell you email after email of people like reaching out to me on, Facebook or social media and saying, hey, so I was, sent to save you. And I'm like, I,
For what though?
save me. I know, like I'm born and raised Catholic, and that's where I struggled with my whole life was I was taught that this was wrong. And when I realized that for me, I didn't need to go to a middleman. I went directly above in a sense that I recognized I needed to figure out what my truth was. And I found that within my soul, within my guides, within this amazing energy around us. And I don't believe in judging what others believe. You want to believe whatever, if you want to follow me on, social media, great. But I don't force you to, just as I don't want to be forced to do something because I think that comes from ego and fear. And to me, we're just all trying to make it. We really are. We're just trying to navigate through this journey that is sometimes difficult, but also beautiful at the same time. Like today's beautiful. I'm in a nice high vibration. I feel good. Now, if you and I are like that and we put that out there, we're just almost emitting it and it's like spreading like a domino effect out there. And I love that.
The world is shifting and changing, and
Mm-hmm.
not that I think everybody needs to convert to like spirituality in a specific way. But the world is changing, and the
Mm-hmm.
way, I mean, church after church is closing, and congregations are growing smaller and smaller because that truth that once was in the world in certain areas is just not as strongly there anymore as it used to be.
Mm-hmm.
It could mean that more people are becoming spiritual. It also could mean that more and more people are becoming more atheists in a sense with disbelief of anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I know that there's a plan for the whole world. I don't think, the spirit, the creator, there's a divine plan that is taking place, whether we know it all or not. And it's going to take years and years and maybe eons of time to kind of evolve
Mm-hmm.
to a place that we see each other as equals, and whether it's race, creed, religion, or whatever it is, that we're all supporting each other rather than looking down upon one person or another, that we're all equals, men and women of all sexes. I mean, even in different countries now, there's
Mm-hmm.
women that don't have equal rights,
I know.
and it's sad. And or so, but it has changed, and we're changing. And if we're changing, those other places that have not made it there yet will. But it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't come easy, and it doesn't come
Right.
without a cost of pain or hurt. And there's people that come into this world with specific plans, just like any other faith system, like that people come with specific plans to shift the world, and they may lose their lives because of it.
Yeah.
But they know when they sign up for this like journey of coming into life, that even if
Mm-hmm.
they lose their life because of what their beliefs or cause are, that they're going to be okay in the end. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why they sign up for stuff like that.
Everything
And then when
lines
you
up.
start to see an intentional, planned, and somewhat semi-planned world, because I still believe we have free will because we can still make choices.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean we don't have voices that say, hey, you shouldn't probably freaking doing that, and we don't listen to it.
Well,
I'm
that's what
sure there's a
people will
lot of people
say.
that hear those voices.
Right? Because people say to me, well, if there's, all these good people in the world, why do bad things happen? If there is this, creator, why do bad things happen? And I say, because we do have free will and we do make choices. And there are things that happen and that aren't great. And actually, this is kind of something that I wanted to ask you while you're on here. I
Sure.
noticed that you had said on that interview with Colette that you don't love to work with the police, but you will if you have
Um,
to.
I
And
do.
I've been asked that many times because people will say to me, well, if you have this ability and you have this information, how can you not go help families that need you and solve these things with the police? And I said, this is, personally speaking, but it is very heavy. It's very dark. I'm a mom. And the things that once we tap into that energy, it's not always great to see. And it
No,
puts a lot of, um, yeah, I guess fear into me as a mom of, oh my goodness, this could happen. I'm trying to keep my children safe. And I see these negative things and it's hard. And I said, maybe someday I will. I have, before, but it's not what I love to do either
no, I
right
have
now.
I
Mhm.
have worked with the police. I have given information on cases. I've helped
Mhm.
even with in regards to information that has brought in people to. I can't create evidence. One, the cops have to find that, and I've done that locally here, and I won't say with who or how, but I've absolutely
Yeah.
done it, and I swear on my kid's life that it's happened. Um, but it's a heavy energy.
It is.
And I get a lot of requests from families, and I get some requests from different police. I was in Fort McMurray, and the RCMP asked me to come in to look at one thing there. I
Hmm.
went in. I won't talk about what I came in to look at. I mean, I don't want public recognition for anything that I'm doing. I don't want people to know that I'm doing that. And I don't want to be the guy that everybody calls every time somebody goes missing.
True. Right.
I have so much going in my life. I can't serve only in that. And that's what it will become. And in sometimes I'm able to help, and sometimes I'm able to give information, but I can't create evidence in cases, and I can't publicly post out into the world what I'm doing. And
Hmm.
it's not an energy work that I find fulfilling.
Hmm.
I know for the police that I help or I have helped, it's great. And I know in my heart who I've helped.
Yes.
But it's not something, and actually before Spirit Talker, this is the thing. I mean, before even the show Spirit Talker, because of my work in the past, that it's funny because even how I got the TV show Spirit Talker was I went
Hmm.
to call a guy, a local producer in Halifax, because I wanted to go out and see, I wanted to go out and meet the guys from the have you ever seen a show called The Curse of Oak Island?
Yeah, I know about it. Yeah,
Right, because they have a show
for
about looking for
sure.
treasure out there, and I always wanted to go out there and vibe out the place and just tell them what I see, feel, and hear.
Uh-huh.
So I called, somebody gave me a name of a producer, and he said, I call him up, and his name's Ed, and I said, Ed, I heard you're like co-producing The Curse of Oak Island on Oak Island. I'd love to go out there. Is there any way you can get out there? He goes, Shawn? Shawn who? I said, Shawn
Hmm.
Leonard. He goes, that is so weird. He says, my writer just went to your show 2 days ago and is
Oh
telling me
my
I needed to
God.
call you and
You're
talk to you about doing a
kidding.
show. He goes, I
Oh,
could probably get you out to Oak Island. He says, but have you ever thought about doing a TV show? And this is where all these things align, right? Like I said, well, not really, but I said if I ever did one, it would probably be missing and murdered Aboriginal and Indigenous women or men, and maybe
hmm,
that's something because I've done work in the past, and maybe this is would be a good way to show, get out into the world, have a show, going to different stations, talking to the investigators, showing what the police are not doing,
hmm.
and just getting that part visualized out there, maybe getting the stories out there. So anyway, he said, okay, well, maybe that would be a good show for APTN, right? So he approached APTN, and APTN said, no, we can't do that because there's too many legal issues around that.
Yeah,
You can't be out naming people doing things, and because you can't arrest somebody every show like you see on every other like show that is like scripted, right? This is not scripted.
right.
This is real life. And there's so many things are sensitive. We couldn't even put it on TV anyway.
Hmm.
And they have another show called Missing, I believe, about missing and murdered Indigenous women.
Hmm.
So they said, well, what other show can you do? I said, well, I do live shows. I read people, and I do one-on-ones and stuff like that. And they like, well, we're going to film a show where you read some people in an audience. We'll pick some of those people you read at the live show and choose them for one-on-one readings, and then we'll highlight them in a little like a pilot episode. We'll send it to APTN and see if they like it.
Hmm.
And they did. So I did a live show. It was in Listowitch, Quebec. I read some people. One of them being a lady named Tracy Metallic,
Hmm.
which was kind of cool in the pilot. Nobody's ever going to see this though, because it was a pilot. It's not put out into the world, but APTN has it.
Okay.
But I read Tracy, and the cool thing is about Tracy, she's a Mi'kmaq artist, an Indigenous artist.
Hmm.
I met her and I said, Tracy. I tuned into her that she was an artist and all this. I was connecting to her uncle who was in spirit, who was a photographer and artist himself. And I saw some of her art. And I said, Tracy, I said, one day I'd like to do a card deck, an oracle card deck. And she said, I said, if I ever get a chance to do one, would you be interested in doing the art for the deck? And she says, I'd love that if you did that. Just give me a call and let me know. And I also, because I have a book coming out on August 8th, but in
Hmm.
October, I have an oracle card deck coming out called The Wisdom of the Elders. And Tracy has done the artwork for it. And the artwork for the front of the cover, as you can
No
see right
way.
here, the
Yeah.
eagle.
Uh-huh.
That's somebody beat it that for me, but she had created that art, and that's also on the front of Spirit Talker.
Hmm.
And so even from the go, this is where I see life just aligning.
lining up like that.
All I wanted to do was
That's
go traveling.
amazing.
And now I have a TV show. Now I got to meet a girl who's an artist who's now done the art front for the book and my card deck. And it
Hmm.
just all like kind of synced together. I see my life is not random.
Same.
It's never random.
Nothing
And
is.
and it's just amazing when you can see your life that way, the synchronicity of it all, and see that there's something much greater going on, and we can even understand how it all comes together, but it does. The great thing about working with spirit or being connected to spirit is that it's continue your that wisdom, that knowledge is always evolving, and you're always learning more about how spirit communicates the messages and the way that they will communicate it to me to help me understand something. I think they must think I'm an expert because sometimes I don't even know what the heck they're talking about, and somehow I figure it out because it's like I'm like I don't know where I'm going with this, but I just keep going and I get there.
Oh my
And
gosh, watching you
and
work is
it's
amazing.
yeah, like I mean, but it's years and years and years of practice and trust and just honoring the
Absolutely.
whole process and understanding how spirit does and can communicate with me and just giving that my whole heart and not and getting out of my ego's way and not thinking I have to know
That's the
everything
difference.
and
Yeah,
just knowing that it's okay to not know. It's more about trusting what you're receiving because not everything is literal. Sometimes things are figurative, and
hmm
understanding that this is figurative and not literal.
hmm
And often I'll say, okay, if this doesn't make sense in the literal way, there must be a figurative meaning to this. And then I adapt and
You
adjust
move there to
the
get
message
there.
from there.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Same. What I loved about you is that you were so spot on with names. I can't hear names like that. Like I usually get an initial, but I'm I teleport a lot. So I go back in time to their house that they grew up in the 60s. And I'm really hyper aware of the surroundings that I'm in when I connect. I just go to places and I can see the carpet on the floor, the paneling on the walls, that kind of thing. But names, I
Right.
don't know how you hear names like that. It was incredible watching you. I was like, wow, you just said everybody's name in spirit. I was like amazed. I thought it was really cool.
Well, I'm pretty good at that. Like it's really honoring, and there's even a way to even kind of like strengthen that.
Okay.
So what I would say is like, you should do like if you meditate and you
Mm-hmm.
do visualize meditations, kind of work on your clairvoyant abilities. I have exercises in my Spirit Talker Tribe course where I teach people to, see an object, then you close your eyes and hold
Yes.
the object within your mind. And then I also then have them see the object, like let's just say it's a lit candle, right? You see
Mm-hmm.
the candle, then you look away, and at the blank space of the table, you can still see the candle
Right there.
burning in your mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then it kind of fades, right? Because we have a muscle that is atrophied visually. We have an atrophied muscle that we don't use as much as we could possibly. So unless you start working that internal psychic muscle to see
Mm-hmm.
and learn how to work it, then because one day the more you work that, eventually something's going to just come in your mind, like you're seeing the candle, but you haven't put the candle in there, or you haven't even thinking about the candle.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, this is so weird. I'm seeing this in my mind. I'm seeing the town and country bar sign, and I don't know why, right?
Yeah.
Now, names I find the greatest way to kind of like strengthen that ability because it's like not always like I've heard spirit with my ears. I've got recordings of people talking to me. I've got all kinds of recordings of spirit saying things to me.
Mm-hmm.
My life is a little weird like that.
Mm-hmm.
But when I mostly hear people doing my sessions live, it's like an internal thought,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
right? So it's like a thought gets pushed into my brain, and then it just goes pop, pop, pop. But how you strengthen that is to practice saying names in your mind without. So you would say, if you could say Jim, Mary, John, and Joseph, and different names like that, or Isabel, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm hearing that name pop in my head. That just to honor the names, and as you say them in your head, what'll happen is when you do connect to spirit and spirit wants to tell you a name, instead of you saying the names to yourself, the name is said to you in your brain,
Mm-hmm.
and
Okay.
you're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, I'm hearing Isabel. Now
Mm-hmm.
Isabel's connected to me. I don't know who Isabel is, so she's here for me. Oh no, she doesn't say Isabel, her name is Mary Bell. And then it's just like she'll correct me, and then it'll
Yeah.
just so it's just like I call them little breadcrumbs. But
Mm-hmm.
if you don't trust the first breadcrumb, how do you
Yeah.
expect to trust the next one if you didn't even trust the first one? See, I was hearing Isabel, and then she comes in and says, no, it's Maribel.
Mm-hmm.
So but I didn't know that until I said the first thing.
Yeah.
then another thought comes in, then another thought comes in, and then and like Joe, and then they just keep popping in like little thoughts pop into my mind. And
Yeah.
by the time I finish, there's somebody go, and I said, then I'll feel out the voices. Well, Isabel felt like a guide or somebody in spirit that would be like with you and around you from spirit and want you to know that they're there. But Joe felt like an uncle figure and things like that. And then
Hmm.
so anyway, I'll feel vibe out the voices.
Yeah.
This feels like dad to me feels like probably about 50 years old. And, Joe feels like he was probably maybe in his early 60s, 61, 62 years old. And then
Yeah.
I'll just feel it all out. And then somebody stands and goes, oh my God, my guide's name was Isabel and my uncle Joe was 62 when he passed away. And then all my heart will skip a beat. And I know he had a heart problem.
Hmm.
I'm like, so
Right.
it's like more information comes.
Hmm.
It's not like you have it all. You're trusting what comes to you, you give it, and then it just unfolds a
Yeah.
little bit at a time. As you step into it, spirit steps into it with you.
It's
And then
amazing.
but you have to learn how to understand and listen
Hmm.
and be mindful of how that language communication works through you,
Hmm.
how it feels. And they'll do all kinds of really cool things to me. I'll feel like I've had a surgery
Oh
and
my gosh,
like
same.
yeah, it's just
You
it's
feel it
awesome. I
all.
just
It is
love when
awesome.
spirit does things, and
Yeah.
or I feel like my finger is missing all of a sudden.
I'll
You
go
know,
like this, I'll look at somebody, I'm like, this one's missing. And I'm like, I don't know what's happening to my hand. But yeah, they
right?
definitely make us feel all that.
They do. They can use unique ways to help you to validate the person they
Yeah.
once were,
Yep.
and then talk about the message that they need to give to them about whether they're stuck in a specific area of life because of their loss
Hmm.
or a message for somebody who's struggling through something. And wherever that goes, I just go with it.
Same. I love
and
it.
and I honor that to the best of my ability. And then they just stop, and I feel like, well, I think
Well,
they're
I guess
done,
they got their message out and that's it.
right?
I,
And then
yeah.
on I go again.
I love it too. And for me, I see it, I'm visually like very clairvoyant. I've always been able to see since I was very young, down
Mhm.
to the shoes that they wore, the type of jeans, listening to them. Some of them are louder than others. And I know you know that, but really loud in your ear. Like whoever was one of my guides telling me in the shower, you've got to message Shawn. And I'm like, nope, 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 I'm not listening. And they just were nagging at me. And sometimes I say to my guides, tell it to me 3 times. And if it's there 3 times and I know I have to say something, because I don't want to always just blurt things out either that maybe could be insignificant, but chances are it's something, right? Like a
Right.
balloon or a red hat or something that you see. But if they show it to me 3 times, I know they're going to be like, you need to say that.
My reality, your reality is a little bit different than a lot of people, but that doesn't mean that other people can't have a similar reality, that they walk with spirit in their life, their ancestors, their loved ones. And they don't necessarily have to be a psychic medium, just somebody who's deeply connected and
Mm-hmm.
understand that they're being guided. And that's the way it is for most people.
Mm-hmm.
There's some people like you or I who have a calling to kind of step into that further, to kind of like put it out to the world so other people can learn. But not everybody has the same life purpose or path.
Right.
A lot of people still want to be the nurse or the doctor or the fireman or the policeman, and
Mm-hmm.
just deeply connected to spirit
That's their
in their
calling.
own special way, right?
Yeah, this was just something that happened to be our calling. Because people will say that to me, well, why you? Why you? Why do you get to do this? I said, well, why does the lawyer go and, before a judge? And why does someone become a surgeon? Like that's their calling. That's the path that, they went upon. This is the path that I happen to go upon.
Absolutely.
Just
I
it.
feel like there's a written chart that was like an outline for all of
Mhm.
us. And
Yes.
whatever journey you're meant to kind of go upon
Hmm.
that's how it will unfold for you in life. And I actually even write about this in my new book too. I talk about a dream that I had.
Hmm.
And a dream that I had where it was on the other side. And I knew it was on the other side because everybody's wearing white robes and I'm in like a university and I'm like, okay, where the hell am I? Why am I here? And am I supposed to be here?
Hmm.
And I know my guide was with me, but I couldn't quite make out his face.
Hmm.
But there was a professor at the front of the class and he's talking to him, and all I can hear is like, wah, 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 wah. I'm like, I don't even know what this guy's saying. And then the professor goes, yeah, you're supposed to be here. I'm like, okay,
Okay.
great. And then he starts talking about our path and purpose. And then he starts talking about how it's written on our Akashic records and the charts of the spirit world. But then he goes into it and says it's encoded within our DNA. And it's actually written hard coded in our DNA, not only your eye color, your your hair color, your how tall you'll be, but it also who your parents are, and
Mhm.
also any health issues that you'll have is written in there, but
Mhm.
also your life purpose and the struggles and all of that's written in your DNA. And we can most they say scientists, I mean, don't even understand. They said within the junk DNA is the option lines of things, and that you still have free will in certain times, but and I was like blown away. And he said that it was in a hidden coded message within our DNA itself, and that one day, and they are able to figure this out to some degree now because like they started to understand that like people who are two spirited, people who are LGBTQs in life, they're
Mhm.
born with a specific gene that identifies them as they are. They're born with this gene within them. So that means it's encoded within their genetics that
Mhm.
they were meant to come in the way they are.
Mhm.
So and they were able to like do enough genetic analysis over people who were LGBTQ or two spirited that they were able to see the same gene. So
Mhm.
it's like, why do some people? So that means they're born with that gene, just like a person who maybe have a hereditary heart problem or heart disease, right? That
Mhm.
they have a specific gene, they're more predisposed to a heart condition
Yes.
as someone else, right? So that means that struggle is meant to be part of the life. It's in there. So if we
Mhm.
can understand for the physicality, but what we don't understand or comprehend just yet is that one day we're going to understand that our life path, our purpose, our struggles, our lessons are also within that same DNA that's in there. It's not just a physical things, it's the spiritual things that are written in there in a secret language.
Mhm.
And then he took me outside and it was really cool. They had a device like this, this is a K2 meter, but they took a device and they touched the plant and
Oh.
they turned it around and it was like a cell phone. They turned it around and showed me the phone. And on the chart of the plant, they touched it, even though it didn't have like DNA like we do. It touched the plant and showed me, and it said who its parents were, how long it was going to live, what its purpose was
What?
for being there, and it was a plant in a rock quarry all by itself.
Oh my gosh.
And he said every blade of grass has a purpose.
Oh.
It's bigger than you can even imagine. It's everything has a
Mhm.
purpose, and it's encoded within the genetics of each an individual plant and everything that why they're there and where they are. And there's no accident for everything in the world for you know. And I was like blown away. I was like, man, this is way too big for me to think about. You're
It's too
telling me blade
much.
of grass has a purpose.
That's right. It's too much.
This is too
But
much.
how amazing is that?
It is.
Right.
It's amazing. And they said, yeah, one day we'll figure this language out and understand our own purpose of who we are through our own genetics eventually.
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
said, that would be an amazing, amazing thing. And then I woke up and I just said, this is just super awesome dream. But there is a path and purpose for us all. Some people may not even know if they're on it or not. Some people think they're off it when they're actually right where they're supposed to be.
Mhm.
A good
Yeah.
sign of that, um, a lot of people, not many people, but some people have deja vu.
Mhm. Yeah.
They have a moment where their life for a moment feels like, oh my God, this is so weird. I've been in this moment at this time before. I
Mhm.
remember this. And that's exactly what it is because I think our charts in our life purpose and path are planned out so greatly that we put in little flag posts that say, you are where you're supposed to be in this moment.
Mhm.
And it's like a deja vu moment that it's like you have this epiphany or memory
Yeah.
of the plan that you made for yourself before you came into life.
That's
And
amazing.
as you wrote it, you're like, okay, I'm going to throw one of these in here now because when I get here, this is going to be one of those moments that I know where I'm supposed to be in this moment. So I tell people that when they have deja vu's, even if you don't believe you are where you're supposed to be, you are, because
Mhm.
that's what they entail. That's the message in the deja vu itself.
I love that. I've never heard anyone say that before, and I love the way that you just described that. It's true. I love it.
Yeah, because you
Amazing.
like, I know I've been here, and well, you
I've
have.
done it. I've done
You
that so
wrote
many
it.
times. That's right. You did
You
actually
thought it
sign up
out in
for
great
it.
detail with your guides before you came here. You'll be right here in this moment.
I love
Yeah.
it.
Okay.
Well, Shawn, I think we got it all. Thank you so much for coming on here today with us because everything that you've said, I really appreciate. You were so candid and open and very honest. And that's what I love about you. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you. And thank you for having me on. I appreciate it very much. And thank you for being and doing a service that you have with like helping people understand and learn and grow in your podcast and reaching people. And, we're all here changing the world. It's not just one person, but many people that have come here to help us to kind of align with our true purpose and who we are. And you're obviously one of those people. So thank you.
Thank you. If you would like to learn a little bit more about Shawn, you can go to his website at shawn-leonard.com. You can pre-order his new book called Spirit Talker online. He also has an incredible deck of oracle cards that are coming out at the end of the year, so have a look for that. And make sure you check out his show called Spirit Talker on the APTN network. I'm sure you will not be disappointed. If you would like to book a reading with me, I can be reached at www.divinemessages.ca or on Instagram at divinemessages333 or at the Divine Messages podcast. Please bear in mind that the perspectives and opinions represented in this podcast are based solely on the Divine Messages interpretations. We can in no way be held responsible for the actions of our followers.